My great-grandparents on the Brookshire side of the family, they lived in Cherokee County. They had a farm, and the farm was located on Highway 92, Old Alabama Road. And my great-grandfather, John B., he came in the right before 1920, he came into Acworth, and he built a home and a store next door, and it was called Brookshire Store, and they referred to that railroad crossing there as Brookshire's Crossing, because people would say, Brookshire's Crossing at Brookshire Store. So they were coming to work one morning at the cotton mill, and it was in March, and they were saying, there was a lot of fog and stuff like that. So at that time, there wasn't things that stopped the trains, and my grandfather got killed on that railroad crossing in 1943.
Oh my goodness.
March of 1943, along with one of his brothers, plus a son-in-law of his. When we were growing up, of course I don't remember him, but I remember my great-grandmother. We would go over to the house, and I can remember sitting on that front porch at the house that still remains there on the right side of the store. My parents had moved to the Coast and Clark Mill Village around 1940. My youngest brother was born in 1942, so he was born there on what was called Middle Road then, but it's Clarkdale now. And I was born on Toccoa Drive, which was referred to as Mud Road. There was a lot of places on the road that always, when it rained, there was always puddles, as we called them, but they were fun because we would go and walk around and splash in them. When we would start somewhere to play, we would say we're going to the flats, or we're going to the resi, or we're going behind the ballpark. And our parents would always know, where we were. And the parents on those streets would always look after the kids of the other parents. And if we got in trouble, they knew it before we got back home. And that's the way it was always in the Mill Village. There was, everybody was just so friendly, and they could sit on their front porches and talk to each other. 1958 is when I wrote my first poem, and we had to stand up in front of the class and read our poem. And so that was the first poem that I had written, and it was called The Chewing Gum Rule. And I stood up in front of the class, and it starts out, "It seems to me that in every school, chewing gum is the biggest rule. About the time you feel at ease, the teacher says, 'Trash can, please.' You say, 'No, teacher, I have no gum.' But still you know you do have some. So out it comes and under the desk to keep it hid from all the rest. Then comes the next day of school. You forget about the chewing gum rule. The teacher spots you right away and says, 'Now, this is your last day. I've caught you once or twice before. Now it's time to settle the score.' So up to the principal, the head of the school, and I'll never again forget the chewing gum rule. And when I was standing up in front of the class, I turned around and rubbed my back. And everybody laughed, including the teacher. Well, we got married in 1967. And by that time, I was working at Kennestone because I had started there in '66. Prior to that, I had worked for C.A. Overcash, which was a realtor. And then we built a house across the street up here, up on the hill in front of his parents. So we purchased the lot and we built a house, and we lived there 17 and a half years. That was prior to us purchasing the Lemon House, and we used to walk past there and, take a walk down to the beach or whatever. And we would look at that house and say, you know, we always wanted to renovate a historic house, and we liked antiques and things like that. So we passed there one day and we noticed that it was going to be on auction for sale. And so that's when my husband and I decided that we would bid on it. There were so many people that, you know, was looking at the Lemon House, and we wanted to make it, you know, try to bring it back as close to what it was prior. But it was a lot of work. I enjoyed living there, but we had always wanted to live out in the country, so we bought 5 acres out, you know, behind Emerson. And I designed the house that we live in because I took a lot of the features from the Lemon House. And a lot of people that come to our house think it's an older house that's been renovated. It's changed a lot, of course. And but when I come through Acworth now, I always think of, you know, when I grew up here. And it was just, you know, small town, neighborly, just, you know, good place to grow up. If I could just say one thing, I'm writing about growing up in the Mill Village, and this is the first sentence, and I want to say it in a very meaningful way. No matter how old you get, or how many friends you make along the way, you never forget the friends you grew up with.